Hi, I'm Lynn Birdwell with Birdhouse Productions, and I'm here with Sean Maxwell, and we've worked together for a long time. How long do you remember?
Oh gosh, well, I think I started working in Houston in the industry in 1984.
Okay.
So I don't remember when we met,
So
but
I
it's
didn't
been a
start that
really
soon.
long time.
So I started in
90s
1993,
probably? Oh, okay.
maybe.
Yeah, so probably late 90s, yeah.
Dennis Clay,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
there were just like the
Yeah.
roster. So everybody that was working on feature films.
Right.
What were you working on mostly in those days?
Well, so after Urban Cowboy, which was sort of a bit of a breakthrough, kind of put Houston on the production map, we got a whole string of feature type work, and that's when most of the, I guess you'd call them A-list technicians, sort of came into the fold here. Because the popularity of that movie just sprung a whole series of other large features that came here. And of course, then TV shows followed, and movie of the weeks and things like that. So for years, we were extremely busy. I mean, we had probably 4 feature. You could probably field 4 different large features with the number of crew that we had here at the time, and that's probably late 80s, 90s, probably just into the 2000. Something
And
like
you
that.
said we had the best Teamsters in the entire United States.
Yeah, part of our success back then was we had such a good, accommodating, hardworking set of Teamsters. You can look around the country in a lot of productions, that's just an area they can have bad experiences, but I think it was refreshing for a lot of companies to come here, and we had some guys that were, loved doing it. They were fired up, and they would just bend over backward to make it happen for you, and that was a big plus, a very big plus, because it's a very large part of your production. So.
Every department is affected by the drivers.
Yeah. I mean, they're some of the first people you hire. And you can't do anything without them. I mean, you gotta be able to move, and that's what they do. And if they do it well, then trust me, it saves you money, and it just makes your life easy.
So you have told me the story of, and some of the other guys too, of what our film commission was like in Houston in
Right.
the term before the film commission that we have now. So what was it like in the past?
Well, I mean, like I said, again, after Urban Cowboy, since we sort of just got inundated, I think just because, Hollywood and New York, I mean, coming here, it was just such an accommodating city. There weren't as many obstacles back then. Before the big flight from Los Angeles, there was a lot of bureaucracy. So coming here, things were kind of wide open. And so they like that. And so the Film Commission just really grew because they were so busy. And that was back when Houston, had a lot of money. I mean, seemed like there were as many helicopters in the sky as there were cars on the road. And so, so they really accommodated all the people that came here in a big way. I mean, like literally flying them around to see locations. And then, I don't remember the years, but when Kathy Whitmire was in office, there was massive city budget constraints. I guess we were over budget or whatever. And I think at that time, they just basically, cut their losses on a lot of departments, but one of the major ones was obviously, well, you look around, what can you cut? Well, okay, the Film Commission was one of them, because it was something I think that was costing them money, so they just sort of relegated it off to a very, just a couple of people, and just sort of almost put it aside.
Well, there was probably no thought that this was going to hamper the influx of films or TV.
Well, I don't think there was no education on how much business it was bringing. I don't think anyone really kept numbers on it or anything that I know of. I mean, there was nobody to say, oh, look, we did the largest, I think, was it RoboCop 2? I think that year was the biggest budget movie made, if not close to it. So I don't think there was any education as far as like, as far as, oh, this is what it's doing for us.
The economic
It was
value.
never weighed out.
Yeah.
Not that I know of. I mean,
Well, I know that people like Kevin Parker have told me many times that he chose Houston over any other city in Texas because that's where the film industry was at that time.
Yeah, I would
and that
agree.
if you wanted a career in the film industry, you had to be in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, Austin wasn't even on the radar yet. Dallas, we competed with Dallas somewhat, but Dallas just had a better commercial scene than we did. But they got Las Colinas, which really helped them out also. But for a while, Houston was probably third to fourth best market in I would say probably in the world. Yeah.
But it was always location based, right? Because we never really had a huge built, purpose-built studio that was like 20,000 square feet or anything. We never did have anything like at that level.
Right, we didn't, but it was at the time where, and this is sort of with the way the business was going, technology got to the point where people were purposely going to locations. I mean, just back then we shot film, but sort of the technology of that era allowed you to be on location and not be so dependent upon studios. So that was okay with them because that's kind of how things were going anyway. But it did build an infrastructure for us. I mean, we never had the large sound stages that like you see competing cities have now, but we had enough, and a lot of these places would simply just rent large, massive, empty warehouses and more or less create their own stage. They could do that cheaper in a lot of ways than going back to Los Angeles and renting a complex. So
I think people still do that
they do.
today.
It's cheaper.
So when we're shooting commercials, what do? We go and find
a warehouse,
a big or a jet hangar at Ellington Field or Tomball, airport, and it's not soundproof, so we can only shoot things in which we're not shooting audio.
I mean, no soundstage is completely soundproof. I mean, even the ones in Albuquerque, they're next to an Air Force base, and you're going to hear the jets. But you just have to treat it like you're outside on location. I mean, you need to dampen it somewhat, but it's like when you're outside, you still manage to get your shooting in. You just stop when a jet flies over or whatever, and so it's kind of the same thing. Even if you're inside, it does cost you some time, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, you're gonna get your production done.
So tell me about your history since the production left Houston.
Yeah.
Where have you found yourself shooting, and what kinds of projects have you been on since then? So that's been like 30 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, so sort of in the heyday of when all these things are happening, I mean, all of us, all the local technicians, we had a lot of experience and a lot of tremendous movie credits to our name. So what happens is when you are good at your job in this business, people start taking you places. So even though Houston, that creative scene of filmmaking died here, me and a lot of other guys, we still worked, we just didn't work here. At that time, Austin was up and coming. You had Robert Rodriguez and Linkletter and all those guys started coming up. And at the time, there wasn't a tremendous crew base in Austin. So since then, we've worked symbiotically with Austin. So we used to bring some of their guys in, and now we go up there all the time.
Same with Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas more than it used to be, but yeah, certainly Dallas has lost a lot of their crew also. But back then, we all just sort of worked together. And then, you would hook up with certain crews, and like I ended up hooking up with an IMAX crew and did about 10 years of IMAX films all over the world. So I'll work, I'll work everywhere but here. I mean, I've worked in Albuquerque, New Mexico quite a bit, and I was in Baltimore for 5 years and on different shows.
So you were on Veep.
Yeah, I was on Veep. Yeah, I did Veep.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, so I did Breaking Bad in Albuquerque. And then from there I went to Veep, and that was in Baltimore for about 5 years. And then I went back to Albuquerque on a show called The Brave. And so it's just, you just end up going wherever.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Well, it was great to talk to you, and we've had this conversation so many times, but we really need to start having this conversation a lot more.